Okay, here is case workup number 3, and we're going to follow our checklist here, and that is going to be to start with the we're going to start with the upper first, and we're going to begin with rotations, and we'll also work out the facial, lingual, and mesial-distal tooth movements. So rotate up to the occlusal. And the first thing we do is, we've already clicked on Create Ideal. I set these tooth movement velocity parameters at 0.3 and 1.5. I'm going to click on Gyro Tool, and first thing we do is work out these rotations. Okay. Again, we start with the central incisor and then work our way back. So I rotated that tooth. Now you can see I need to distalize this tooth. Until we see a space. I distalize just enough until we see a space between the centrals, and that can actually go back a little bit further. And I'm going to actually reduce this down to 0.15. And then now we have, again, the situation which happens the majority of the time. We can go ahead and distalize this whole entire segment, as well as do some expansion to give us a little space there. So now I'm distalizing, and I just keep clicking on this button until I get a very small space distal to that upper right lateral. And I'm also going to do a little bit of expansion as well. Okay, there's a small space, and then we're going to work on some expansion. And we're going to rotate now. Okay. And now we're going to start on the upper left here and work on the rotation. And you can see we also need to come facially a little bit so it's even with the upper right central incisor. And I would not be concerned about this space here, because again we'll get that corrected towards the very end. So now we're going to move to this lateral, work on the rotation, and move it facial. Till we have just a small space between these two teeth. And then this cuspid here, you can see could use a little bit of rotation. We really don't need to distalize this side at all. So now let's look for any torquing issues. I think the centrals here could use a little bit of torque. And now we're going to rotate up to the facial and work on any intrusion, extrusion, and tipping. So I like to just rotate around now. Everything looks pretty good. I don't see any need to intrude or extrude. Okay, very good. All right, so now let's go ahead and start on the lower. And the first step, the first thing we're going to complete on the lower is we are going to align the midlines. So I take the lower left central incisor, and now I'm going to move that over until it is in alignment with the upper midline. So that's going to be right here. And then now we are going to, you see this is quite a bit more complex case than the previous cases we were working on. This case has a lot of crowding. So now we're going to work on the rotation here. And now we're going to again repeat the same process, just work our way around the arch. So bring this to facial, bring it so it's just a small space distal to that central there. And again, see, we can now distalize this entire segment here. And I'm just going to distalize until we get the small space. Okay, almost there. And I'm going to build in some expansion. So I'm going to actually put in a few clicks here of facial tooth movement. And I'm going to focus in on this canine here because to me this looks like it could use a little bit of rotation. Okay, and again, you know, we're not shooting for perfection here at this first at bat. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to the lower right side. Repeat the exact same process. So we're going to move, since we set this central here to the upper midline, then we know that we just need to now align the lower right central to the lower left central, since that is kind of the key tooth that we're building the entire case around. Okay, and now we just work back to our lateral incisor here. Again, move a facial and move this distal. And I like to sort of key off my contralateral lateral incisor in terms of determining how much rotation, how much facial and lingual tooth movement that should receive. Then we're going to go ahead and distalize this whole segment here. I'm going to actually increase this up to 0.25 just because there's quite a bit of distalization needs to happen with this whole segment. So again, I just take this tooth, wrong way. I just keep distalizing this whole segment until we get a small space. That'll be a small space distal to that lower right lateral incisor. Okay, almost there. Okay, there's a small space, and now we're going to take this out facially just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to rotate this tooth in just a little bit. Alright, good. Now we're going to go ahead and snap around in the facial, and we are going to, again, start here on one side, just rotate our way around, and obviously we can see that this lateral here needs a lot of tipping as well as a lot of intrusion. I'm going to intrude and bring this distal just a little bit, and now this central here needs a lot of intrusion as well. This central, see, needs quite a bit of tipping, and then also needs a lot of intrusion. And this lateral here, see, needs a lot of intrusion, and this cuspid needs a lot of intrusion. Sometimes when you're intruding a tooth, you'll have to go in and sort of fine-tune the mesial distal position of the tooth. So, okay, now we basically have those lower incisors there. roughly evened out. I can intrude this a little more. Again, I'd probably, just because of uneven tooth wear, when the patient has done the treatment, enamel-plasty those incisal ledges so they're nice and even. Okay. So now let's go ahead and rotate back up to the occlusal and just take a glance at everything to make sure that we are sort of after we do a lot of intrusion and tipping, sometimes it'll throw off the occlusal scheme here, but this looks okay. This looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and remember our tooth movement guidelines, velocity guidelines. Okay, so we're going to stay within these parameters here, and we're going to go back to the case, and we're going to look at our tooth movement table over here and try to find the largest displacement. And it looks to me like we've got 21 degrees of rotation here, and then we have 15 and a half degrees of tipping, and I only like to tip a tooth at 1 degree per setup. So to me, that's probably going to be the case limiting factor. So I'm going to click on create intervals. I'm going to go ahead and enter 15. I'm going to click on OK and review all of our parameters. Now, if you make a mistake and these numbers come out how you don't like them, you can always just go up to Edit, Undo, and then that will give you the opportunity. It will reset everything, and you can go ahead and click on Create Intervals and then put in a number either high or lower and see how the numbers sort out for you. So anyway, let's get back, and I would set this at 15, click on OK, and then now we have all of our tooth velocities and parameters set up. Everything is within our guidelines. And that's it. So then really all the next step the next step would simply be to file, save, and then wait until this little green bar goes across down here, and then file, exit, and you're done. Okay? Hope that makes sense. I look forward to seeing you in case video number 3.